What if sometimes slow is the fastest way there? I suggest that might be key in this week as Mars squares Pluto. I'll be talking about that in today's episode of Our Waking Dream. I'm your host, Coco Swanson. I'm a strategist, mentor, educator, leader, and each week on this show, this podcast, I go over one basic astrology theme that's moving through the week or the season. I try to distill it down into beginner-friendly language. Bear in mind, it's like explaining an entirely different way of looking at the world and the language, because we're talking about the metaphor contained within planets, within the sun, the moon, and the zodiac signs, Aries, Taurus, Gemini, etc., and what they mean in your life. So if you're new to astrology, each week, let the astrology part, which is most of the first half, let it be a wash over you so you can let yourself learn a language without pressure and just enjoying yourself and listening to the metaphor of what's moving on and how it is real for you, what applies to you. So in the meantime, over in Coco Swanson land, this is Our Waking Dream, this is my podcast, but on my website, I have a new membership platform. I'm really excited about it. I'm pouring all my content in there and organizing it with pillars to study and sub-pillars and modalities that are meant to help you with burnout, exhaustion, decision fatigue, transitions. When you're ready to become more empowered in your life from the inside out, come on over to Leadership Studio. Also, I have a free bi-weekly solutions lab where you can jump on and I problem solve with you live every other Sunday. All of that's linked below. Okay, let's jump in, talk about Mars squaring Pluto. Anytime we have a square, it's a bit of a conflict. My astrology teacher, Fern, with Wise Star Astrologies, I'll link her below too. She's amazing. And she squares like when we if we're wanting transformation, so we rub two sticks together to make a fire. It's the friction that's created in order to bring about the biggest transformation. But friction is not something that our mammal bodies love, unless, maybe you're wired to love a good Pluto square Mars, but it's a pretty heavy hitting transit and it's happening this week. So May 26th, 2026, Pluto, Mars squaring. Slow. We slow down. We look at shadow. Mars is about action. Mars is about motivation. What motivates you? What fortifies your actions? Well, if Mars is hanging out in Taurus, which it is, Mars, the planet of action and drive, is hanging out in Taurus that really values safety, stability, consistency, beauty, comfort, ritual, sensuality. So if Taurus is resourced and feeling good, when Mars, the planet of action, is in Taurus, our actions will feel sustainable, fortified, comforting. However, what happens when we don't feel safe? We don't feel stable. We don't feel fortified and supported. How do we act then? That's something to look at this week. It's important to look at how you're fortified. What helps ground you? What helps resource you as you slow down this week? And why I suggest slowing down is because of that square. Mars is squaring Pluto. Let's talk about Pluto now. Pluto moves slowly. Pluto is a wrecking ball. It's a transformational tool. Gosh, when Pluto transits a sign, we have 20 years at the unconscious and subconscious level to look at the patterns that need upgrade, deep, deep upgrade, unconscious, subconscious level that's governing our thoughts and how we behave. Pluto works at that level. Another way to translate that into it is Pluto works with our shadow. And our shadow we see in them, whoever they are. Whenever we take the finger and we point it from us to you, whoever you are, that contains our shadow, the areas that are ready for breath, that are ready for examination within ourselves. The areas that are ready for transformation are easy to find in the people and the situations that we don't agree with externally. So I like that because it's a cheat sheet, so to say, with Pluto. So let's look at Pluto in Aquarius because we're at the beginning. Started in 2024, it goes to 2044 in Aquarius. Pluto in Aquarius, a 20-year arc. This beginning part, we want the skeletons to come out of the closet. We want to see the things that are corrupt within Aquarius. What's Aquarius? Aquarius, well, it rules shared ethics. It's communication, technology, network thinking. It's universality. Does whatever we're doing pass the test of time? How about this? Does it pass the test of time in the galaxy, not just on the planet? So how are we, what ethics, shared ethics or non-shared ethics are governing our individual groups like me and you, us as a company, as a family, us as a nation, whatever nation you're in, and us, humanity. How are our ethics? And how do we see what ethics can use an upgrade? Big questions, right? This week is a good week for big questions because up till May 26th, this is going to be increasing in pressure. Because squares, I've noticed, I'm super sensitive to astrological movements. If you're listening to this far in, I imagine you are too. We'll feel it before it happens. And the square, the day of the square itself, can alleviate pressure, especially if you've been doing the inner work associated with the square. So this is why I say slow is the fastest way there, because if Mars squares anything, that's going to stop you in your tracks. But when Mars squares Pluto in Aquarius, that's newly-ish in Aquarius, we might see a lot of shadow projection. And so that's what I'd like to entangle today are inquiry questions and practices that allow for you to slow down and examine what's working beneath the surface of these two planets and, well, what it means for you, really. What's going on beneath the surface for you with questions that are allowing for us to see how Mars in Taurus and Pluto in Aquarius are tuned up or not so tuned up internally within us. Okay, let's just break this down. Mars says, Mars in Taurus says, fortify, says, be consistent, steady, resourced, loves time, loves having time, money. It loves to be resourced. So in what ways are you not resourced? In what ways are you not fortified right now in your actions? Look at that. Honor it. Also, Pluto, look within. So this is, if we know that Pluto projects naturally because it's looking for unhealed patterns within us. And unhealed patterns are very easily found in what we don't like about them being any them whenever we other someone, which we're doing all the time. So we slow down because we have the potential to deeply regenerate, to see and fine tune our ethics, and to create relationships based on shared ethics. It's a pretty big deal. First and foremost, I suggest is inquiry. So the questions that you bring with you for this week alone, those questions can help turn the dial on your evolution. So the questions are, where are they being an asshole right now? Who's being an asshole? Who's being a jerk? Who are they? Are they a friend? Are they a sweetheart, a colleague? But who are you othering, so to say? And what are they doing? What's ethically off? Next question. How are you exemplifying the ethics that you find that they are off on? How are you exemplifying ethics that you don't want to exemplify, that you don't want to embody? For instance, if you're under pressure, how do your ethics change? How does your behavior change? Just to start to untangle judgment and just look at your ethics, how you are ideally and how you are under pressure. Because for me, there's a real difference. There's a departure in my behavior when I'm under pressure, or if I'm not feeling resourced, my behavior changes. And just looking at that allows for more humanity to build within you, how you treat yourself and others. And where are you adding more fear, more judgment to the world? In what ways are you focusing on those people or that government or that leader or them being a jerk? And that's actually causing your hope and your contribution to deplete. That's another thing I'd look at this week. And how's this? Can you slow down enough? Breathe deeper and start to notice when fear or insecurities or anger are starting to hijack your perception. It's slowing down enough to have the observation within yourself to know if you're wanting to play out the narrative and the storyline in your head. Because I suggest we might all be better off if we're playing narratives about ourselves and each other that, one, are more accurate, so we might need more inquiry, and two, that hold room for possibility. Just look at all this. Inquiry questions I bring to my journal, I bring to my conversations with my friends. Are you open to seeing things with new eyes from a fresh perspective? Because if so, practice number 2 is about slowing down when you notice you're reactive, judgmental, when they are doing something that's ethically off. That becomes an opportunity to offer breath to the material that's subconscious and needing reconfiguration. Do you know the Rumi quote? Out beyond ideas of wrongdoing and right doing, there's a field. I'll meet you there. When we slow down enough to examine our own bias, our own judgment, our own certainty We offer it breath, and we start to build inner connection and interconnection. So practice number 2, I suggest, is, are you open to create change in your perception? If so, keep an eye out for areas in which you are judging or othering them. In what ways are they doing wrong, whoever they is? And that moment is the opportunity. That, whatever they are doing, becomes the material you get to move through slowing down and bringing the focus internal. And simply remembering, as Rumi so gorgeously says, out beyond ideas of wrongdoing and right doing is a field. I'll meet you there. We offer breath. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I'm right. Maybe you're wrong. Maybe you're right. Maybe we just have ethics and embodiments of ethics that are different. In Aquarius, we look at how we can all get along together as a society. And we might have some shared ethics. We might have some non-shared ethics. But when we become rigid and fervently attached to our opinion, that's when we break apart rather than build bridges internally and externally. So I suggest that you keep an eye out for your certainty. When you know that you're right and they're wrong, that becomes the opportunity to offer breath and to offer, I'm open to change. I'm open to see this with new eyes. And that invitation alone changes things. It changes how I see, it changes how we are. Because as soon as one of us gets off of the, I'm right, and this is how it is, there's porosity, there's allowance for change. And that's what we need to build bridges of connection together. So especially in this week when Mars squares Pluto, really allow yourself to slow down when you're experiencing judgment, when you're experiencing projection, irritation. Practice number 3 is about how we're moving within our communities, within our relationships, when we do not share ethics. So not every relationship or workplace culture or family system carries within it shared ethics. How do we get along when our ethics are not in alignment? This is a question for this week. It's a great time to observe the underlying ethics that are governing our behavior. My behavior, your behavior, our behavior. We want to look at how we are responding under pressure. Not how we say we'll respond, but how we respond in life. Sometimes under pressure, we'll become more curious and want to connect more. We'll become more honest. We'll want mutual reflection. That's one style. I love to lean towards that. However, some people might value certainty and see stopping in our emotional realms as less efficient and want to be more self-protected and emotionally distant. Well, neither of those would be wrong or right, but they create very different trajectories when pressure increases in a relationship. And so some relationships at work, in our lives, can hold complexity, can hold pressure, can hold conflict, but some cannot. And our bodies will recognize the difference in our ethos before our mind can. Unless all of this is spoken, unless we're talking about and creating systems, which is my obsession and what I do for my living. So I create systems that allow for different ethos to belong in the same room. as long as there's governing systems for everybody. But for you, it's sometimes instead of forcing shared ethics, sometimes we need to back away from a situation and let who we're orbiting with, who we're friends with, who we're working with, what communities we're in, we can let them change. Like, why not let everybody be who they are and embody the ethics that they have, that I have, that you have? And we start to orbit a little bit further away if the ethics between you and I don't work. We give it a go. But how about being like, well, let's just try different configurations of people. Sometimes we need to shift our who we're being with in order for greater alignment, for conscientious awareness. And at the same time, we want to look at what judgment are we carrying, how we can release the judgment, and how we can have conversation about ethics with people that we need to orbit close to. So this is, again, slowing down to look at how we are under pressure and what ethics are implied within that, and how we need to shift within ourselves and our communities to have a more conscious embodiment of our ethics. Big inquiries this week with Pluto squaring Mars. And again, the major square that it happens on May 26th. So if you're listening to this before then, you're working up to that. After that, it's a poof, let's let that lesson go for a minute, enjoy ourselves. Okay, that's all for today. Thank you for being with me here on Our Waking Dream. Please share this episode, comment, review, etc. Give it wings. It's growing organically. Until next time, thank you, thank you, thank you. Thank you for being a part of our community here at Our Waking Dream. Please make sure to like, subscribe, and share. Fill my cup and let it overflow. Let it overflow with love.